Hello, everyone. Welcome to MFSN's NFL Draft Preview Show for Fantasy Football. I'm Dr. Dan Ratner, and I'm here with Alex, the Hustler, and Ross, the Boss.
Hey, everybody, I'm Ross the Boss, and I want to talk fantasy football with you, Cowboy. I'm excited,
what up?
guys. 3 weeks and counting. It's going to be great.
Very, very excited. This is a very exciting time of the year. I mean, the three of us are probably the most excited people on the planet, pretty much. Yeah, that's the way we work here. So, Alex, tell me what is it like for you at this moment? You know, you're 3 weeks out from the season. Are you super excited for this? I mean, I know you're excited, but what's it like?
Yeah. I mean, it's Christmas in August. I mean, we start drafting literally in February with multiple leagues, dynasty leagues, and making it all the way until now. And redraft season is upon us. We got our new show that we're doing 2 times a week, and during the season, it's going to be 5 times a week. And yeah, it's wild. I'm ready.
Wow. Yeah, you're geared up. All right, so here's what we're gonna do, guys. We're gonna go through, the usual positions: quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and we're gonna go through our top 10. Alex, you may not have had this prepared, so you can just critique ours instead, whatever you want to do. But Ross and I have a top 10 list. We've got sleepers, we've got busts, we've got value picks at each position. And we want your help in evaluating, did we get this right? Are we missing the boat on certain players? What are you surprised about? That sort of thing. So, Ross, I'm going to turn it over to you first. You got quarterbacks.
Quarterbacks, I do it by tiers. So
I want to hear your tiers.
Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. The Hustler knows what we're talking about. And if you guys want to watch our Hustler show, I do a show with the Hustler every Tuesday at 3 o'clock Pacific time. We talk fantasy football, and we gave our ratings already for quarterbacks. So if you want to go look at our ratings, you can watch it anytime on MFSN. So my first tier is this. Pat Mahomes had the worst year of his life last year. He was still a top-tier quarterback. I think he'll have a great year this year, even without Hill. Doesn't matter. And then, Josh Allen's getting all this press, top-tier guy. And the other top tier, I guess, I got to put Herbert up there. Even though he's didn't have a great year last year. Had a good year, right, Hustler? I mean, it wasn't like a breakout, great, unbelievable year. But, I mean, he had a good enough year where I'm saying that he's top tier. But those are the 3 top tier guys I have. Hustler, do you agree or disagree?
Oh, yeah. Well, and Herbert, I mean, he threw for 5,000 yards last year. He's only a couple shy of 40 touchdowns. So, yeah, he had an insane year last year. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I'm on my top 4. I got Josh Allen, Herbert, Mahomes, and then Burrow. That's how my top 4.
Oh, I'm wearing Burrow's jersey, as you can tell.
Oh, I like that. Now, I don't know if you guys can see or if you noticed, but I actually have a Browns Baker Mayfield jersey in the background because I'm not giving up on that. No,
you can burn that.
Of course, it's gone. I mean, look, anytime you buy a Browns jersey, you're in trouble, no matter what it is. I mean, unless it was like Factory of Pain, So I have the same top 3, Ross. I have Josh Allen number 1. I feel like he's, Buffalo, they're in a position, I think, where they've got all the parts to make him have that top season. I think Patrick Mahomes is going to struggle somewhat without Tyreek Hill. He'll still be a top 3 guy. I really think he is, but I have him 3rd. I have Justin Herbert 2nd. So I didn't have Joe Burrow in the same tier, though, Alex. I do have him in my top 10, certainly, and he's got huge upside. I love the guy, and I think he's going to get better and better. So that's interesting. So let's talk 2nd tier. Alex, who would you put in your 2nd tier?
So, I mean, I actually have it to where I have Mahomes and Joe Burrow in my 2nd tier. I get a little bit shysty with when it comes to the tiers. So I only have Allen and Herbert as tier 1 guys who I think there's no questions about it at all. Patrick Mahomes is right there, but I think just because of kind of the hate from Tyreek Hill leaving, and his lack of weapons, maybe that's why I put him in the tier 2 instead of tier 1.
All right, so I just want to say, anybody who slices and dices their tiers that finally, I love. Because you're really thinking about it. Love it. So, okay, tell us who's your 3rd tier then.
So I got 4 guys in there. I got Lamar, I got Tom Brady, I got Stafford, and I got Kyler.
Interesting. So Aaron Rodgers does not make the cut.
Nope, he's right at the beginning of the next tier.
So let's talk about that tier real quick. So Murray last year, he was non-existent in November, December. I mean, he didn't show up, basically. I mean, it was an invisible man. Great the first 2 months, horrible the last 2 months. Do you still have him in that tier?
Oh yeah, this is my tier for this year. I mean, he's
Okay,
that
I
great
mean,
that he took 2 months off and he still ended up in the top 12.
and
Now he just got paid. He got the buku bucks. And
I mean, every year we say, okay, Brady's going to age is going to catch up to Brady. He's not going to have the numbers. He's not going to have the yards. And every year I'm wrong. So this year, Brady is in my tier 2. Burrow's in my tier 2. Lamar Jackson is fighting for a contract. I think he'll have a huge year. He's going to put everything together this year if he stays healthy. But I love Lamar. I'm dropping Lamar. I'm dropping my Murray just because last year, and he doesn't have Hopkins until week 8 or 9, whatever it is. I mean, so he has, he lost Hollywood Brown. He lost Hollywood Brown because he's hurt. But I think what I had to say, Burrow to me, and I love Jalen Hurts to me also. I think it's kind of a big year also. I like Hurts a lot.
Yeah, I was thinking with Kyler Murray, I think Hollywood Brown, first of all, I think his injury is not that serious from what I've read. So I think he's going to be fine. And I think he's going to have a big year. I actually have him as one of my sleepers.
I think he's gone back to practice since that little hammy injury.
Alex, you'll really like this. Marquise Brown was one of my sleepers last year. And as we were drafting, I said to Ross and Casey, who you've met, I said, okay, guys, should I draft Hollywood Brown? And they talked me out of it, which is my own fault. Only I am to blame for that. But listen, is Tom Brady going to fall off? Never. Tom Brady, he's going to retire before because that's how Tom Brady does things. He knows his time. He's
as long as avocados still exist, Tom Brady is going to be doing just fine.
That's exactly right. And I do think that Aaron Rodgers does get a downgrade because Devontae Adams isn't there. I mean, there's some questions at wide receivers. The same thing that I feel about Patrick Mahomes, but he's got a bit of a downgrade. I think Kyler Murray is going to be fine. I think Joe Burrow is going to have a big year. What do you guys think about Dak Prescott? And then we'll get into sleepers, busts, and value picks.
Hustler and I talked about Dak. I mean, Dak, his weapons aren't there. Gallup is hurt. Washington's hurt. They lost Cooper. They have Schultz and they have CD Lamb, who I love, but he's missing a couple. He's missing some weapons. I mean, people predict a huge year for Dak. I don't like it. I'm staying away. Hustler.
I'm at number 10, so I mean, it's hard to say that I'm going to stay away from him. He's not someone who I'm going to try to draft early, but yeah, the lack of weapons, Cooper leaving. I mean, I don't know if he's going to rely more on his legs. I mean, if that ends up happening, I mean, then he's going to be more valuable than we think. I just don't think that that's going to be the case, but I got him at number 10, still inside my, my QB1 top 12.
All right. Awesome, guys. Let's talk about sleeper picks. If you had to name one sleeper, Alex, who would it be?
Are we talking QB?
Yeah, QB. We're sticking QB.
For QB, I really think that as much as I don't like Jared Goff, I just really feel like he's going to be a sleeper that everyone's kind of hating on just a little bit extra, and that, probably because of Hard Knocks, maybe he's not going to get slept on, after that. But I just think he's someone who's going super, super late. You're getting him as like a back end, QB2. So if you're like punting the QB position, I think that's someone even in a super flex you get late and you should be okay.
Yeah, that's something to keep in mind when we're talking quarterbacks. If you're in a super flex league, it's a different story. A guy like Jared Goff can actually have value there. In a 12-team league with one quarterback, no, he's cannon fodder. Ross, how about you? Who's your sleeper?
I love Derek Carr. He has weapons. He has a good offensive line. He has one of his good friends is his leading receiver this year, in Devontae Adams. I also like Tua. I mean, he has Waddle and he has Hill. I mean, he's going to throw the ball to those two guys. They're going to have yards. So Tua and Carr are guys that you can draft late in the draft, and I would be happy starting either of those two guys. I'll be fine with it.
Those are some good sleepers that you guys are giving people because you got to dig deep in the draft. Mine is not as deep, I will admit. But I think Jalen Hurts has a chance to be way up there in the quarterbacks, just because of his skill set.
He's number 8 on my board.
He's underrated. I don't even have him in my top 10, and yet I have him as a sleeper. So it's an interesting thing. But I think he's got the skill set to be a top end quarterback. All right, how about busts? Ross, you start us off. Who's a bust for you?
I'm going to say it just because I think he's getting older. He's 34 years old. He won the Super Bowl last year. I think Matthew Stafford's not going to have a great year. He's going to have a good year, but not a great year like last year. I think age is going to catch up with him. His arm with tendonitis they're not really talking about it, but I don't think he's 100% right now. And I'm worried about Matthew Stafford. I would not want to draft him if I was drafting right now. Another bust that I think is going to happen, I think Josh Fields won't have a good year, but he's not even in anybody's talk about quarterback. But
Justin Fields,
again, the Bears are going to be the worst team in football. So stay away from any Bear. I don't think they'll be at all fantasy football wise mean anything. Maybe Montgomery, who knows? But for me, I think Stafford's a guy that could have a down year. We'll see what happens.
So I totally agree. I actually am predicting Matthew Stafford. This is a bit of a hot take, but because it's a prediction, and what do you know about that? I think he's going to end up having surgery. I think he's going to be out for the year. I don't want that for him, of course. And he finally won a Super Bowl after all those years with the Lions. I would hate it, but actually, listen, I'm a mind-body guy, Alex. You may not know that about me. So I can sometimes see when injuries are coming. So I'm going to make this prediction. We're going to look back on the year. Does he end up out for the year or having surgery? I think if you draft Matthew Stafford as your QB1, you are in trouble. You're going to need a good backup.
Do you think it's because of what he has right now with the tendonitis, or you think like just playing more like?
No. So here's the thing. I think that it's actually about the fact that doctors get this kind of thing wrong. This is my area of expertise in psychology. So sometimes I can be helpful in fantasy sports because of what I know professionally otherwise. And I think they've got this misdiagnosed. I think they're going to make him worried about it. I think they're going to send him down a bad path, and he's going to end up getting surgery. I hope that does not happen, but that's why I'm worried about him, and I would not draft him as my QB1 because of it. All right, let's talk value picks. Who's a good value pick that, when I say value pick, I just want to define that. It's not the same thing as a sleeper because it's somebody that's already a known quantity that, you think they're good, but they're just going too late. They're ADP.
I mean, somebody that no one's taking, like if they do, it's late, is Aaron Rodgers. For some reason, people are just staying away from him. I can see why, because he doesn't have the weapons like he had last year. But I mean, that guy's a winner. I mean, the guy finds a way to win. He finds a way to throw touchdown passes to people, and he gets frustrated. He's already talking about how the rookies are disappointing him right now. I mean, he's already boisterous about it. He's doing press interviews about it. I mean, this guy is a winner. I know he's only won one Super Bowl. I know that, but this guy wants to win, and he'll be out there. He is a fighter, and they'll let him. He'll be a gunslinger the whole year. I mean, people underestimate him right now.
Alex, who's your value pick? And by the way, I think we didn't give you a chance to say who your bust is. So if you want to get that in, please do.
My bust, the only guy in my top 12 that I think has real bust potential is Dak Prescott. Not in real life, but in fantasy. The weapons, but their defense is the best that it's ever been since he's been there. So they may start, relying on the defense a little bit more, relying on a little bit of the run game until guys like Gallup get back. I mean, if CD is really hurt like at all to where he's not going to be 100% because of his foot right in the beginning, that's just another bad thing for Dak. So as much as I'm saying I'm not really avoiding him, I'm definitely not trying to target him necessarily, especially in a single QB league.
Listen, that can happen. You end up drafting him even though you were wary of him because it was just the right draft slot. So how about value picks?
Value pick, I'm going Trevor Lawrence. I was going to say Aaron Rodgers. Ross beat me to it. But let's go with Trevor Lawrence, someone who, kind of left for dead last year. Out of all the QBs, he seemed like one of the worst, out of the rookies. But I think he's going to have a real big comeback year, and he's got what's his name, Doug Peterson now. They got a bunch of new weapons. They improved the offensive line. He can only get better from his numbers last year. I think he has a huge, huge bounce back year. I got him at number 12 in my ranks.
Nice. All right, so my value pick, it's interesting that this guy isn't getting mentioned at all, but my value pick is Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, he's in a new situation. And he has the skill set, but I just think that he's such a smart, savvy quarterback that he's going to make that work and be a really good value. So I would much rather have him certainly than Matthew Stafford. That's a no-brainer to me. But I even have Russell Wilson creeping into my top 10. I think that he's going to put up that kind of value. So I think you can get him late, and at quarterback, you can get people really, really late, especially outside of Superflex leagues. All right, guys, let's move to running backs. Let's go with your top tier. Alex, I'm going to start with you since I started with Ross on QBs. Who's in your top tier of running backs?
At RB, I got Who do I have in there first? Dang it. I thought I had my list right here. It's freezing up on me. Hold on a second. There we go. I got JT at number 1. I got Najee at number 2. And that's my top tier right there. I have huge second tier from 3 to 9, though.
That's great. I'm going to go ahead and say that I parsed my tiers so much that Jonathan Taylor is in a tier by himself. He's just number 1. Najee Harris just to me has some question marks just because what's the quarterback play going to be like? He didn't perform quite as well. Taylor just is head and shoulders above Harris to me. But I actually do have Harris. I actually don't have him second. I have Derrick Henry second. He's a big risk in certain ways, but he's also got just gigantic upside. Ross, who's in your top? Let's say
the top is JT. Jonathan Taylor's number 1. I don't think he'll have the same numbers he had last year. I mean, he's not going to have the same year. I mean, last year he had an unbelievable year, breakout year. University of Wisconsin running back. He'll get the ball 20, 25 times a game. Najee Harris is going to lead the league in rushing this year. That's my prediction. If you go to Vegas and want to bet it, you can get 6-1 odds on that. I think that's a great bet. I'm already sending Dan there with his mortgage, with his
he does this every year
equity there to bet. So my tiers, and I put McCaffrey there. I know he gets hurt every year, and I'm not a huge fan of drafting him, but if he stays healthy, he's a top tier guy. I mean, as much as I don't want to admit it, he is. It just, these running backs are not going to stay healthy. And we talked about handcuffs last week on our show with the Hustler, and you got to draft handcuffs to make sure that you got the running back that's there. I mean, I also like Austin Eckler. I mean, Austin Eckler is a monster, but if he gets hurt, you better have Spiller waiting in the wings, because if you don't, you're not going to win your league.
Yeah, you've got to get the handcuffs, especially with guys like that.
So, I mean, I have about 4 or 5 running backs on the first top tier. I think they're all like RB1s, all 4 of them, as I just mentioned. Even Joe Mixon, I like a lot. I think he'll have a big year with the Bengals. Their offensive line improved 1,000%. And I think people are going to, they have to guard the receivers. So they can't put 9 in the box. It's not going to work. Especially with Joe Burrow playing quarterback. So all that being said, I have the 4 top tier guys, and then there's not a big drop off for me. It's not like, if you don't get the RB1s that I just mentioned, you're screwed. You're not. I mean, the RB2s you'll be fine with. You can still win your league with the RB2s. And let me know if you want me to mention those right now, if you want, or unless you want the.
No, go ahead and mention them. You're on a roll.
So, Derrick Henry, I have RB2. Chubb, I have RB2.
Tier 2, right? That's what you mean? Tier 2?
Yeah, I like Nick Chubb this year. The Cleveland's offensive line is really good. Cook, I'm putting him. I know he gets hurt every year. You got to put Cook in the tier RB2. I also love Kamara. Kamara of the Saints is not, he's not going to be suspended. He's playing the whole year. I mean, that's happening, and he's dropping off. He's the one running back that's going every week. He's getting further and further down on the ADPs, and it's a shame, because I think he's going to have a big year.
Well, this is why I have him as my value pick, because
you have him as your value pick. I mean, he's dropping, but I have him as tier, and then. I like James Conner. I like Zeke Elliott. I mean, there's so many good running backs in the top tier 2 RB2s. Aaron Jones, I have up there. Even Barkley, I have up there. So, again, if you don't get one of the top tier running backs, don't fear, because Ross is here to save you. I like Swift for Detroit. I think he's going to be special this year. He proved a lot on Hard Knocks. You guys have to watch that. Swift was featured a lot. I love Deuce Staley as the offensive coordinator or assistant offensive coordinator.
Don't draft him. He's
for Detroit, and Deuce and him have a great relationship. So all that being said, with running back, you want to draft these guys in the second or third round, but you want to make sure you at least get 2 of them on your team, because they go quickly. Trust me.
And there's a lot of guys who are like in committees, or they have risk to them. So the running back position is where you're going to lose your value at certain places to injury. So as I said, I have Jonathan Taylor in the first tier. My next tier, it's really kind of a pick your poison kind of thing. Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Najee Harris to me is above those guys because he doesn't have any real risk to him. Austin Eckler's next. I've got Nick Chubb. Now listen, I have Christian McCaffrey ranked 9th. He is that much of an injury risk to me. I know he has nuclear upside, but when you're picking in the first round, if you decide to pick Christian McCaffrey, you're living with his injury risk, and I would not want that. Alex, what do you say about that?
I mean, you're only injured until you aren't. I mean, that's really what it is. I'm so heavy on the waiver wire that I'm not necessarily targeting Christian McCaffrey, but if he falls to the 10th or 11th spot in the first round,
I would love that. I'd love that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no passing up on him.
But if you're picking, let's say you're picking between him and Austin Eckler.
I mean, I have Eckler one spot higher. So
yep.
I've got Eckler at 3, CMC at 4, Henry at 5, Mixon at 6, Chubb at 7, Aaron Jones at 8, and Dalvin Cook at 9.
All right. Now, I want to ask you guys what you think about Javonte Williams. There's a lot of talk about him and his role, Melvin Gordon. To me, I think at some point this is a bunch of hot air. Melvin Gordon's going to have a role.
Yeah.
But I think it's really going to be dispel Javonte Williams. So I actually think he's kind of a value at the back end.
No, I mean, Melvin Gordon, they paid him $2 million. He can make $4 million with incentives. It's Williams' job. I mean, you got to be an idiot to think that Williams isn't going to start. Williams is going to get a big percentage of the handoffs. Gordon's going to come in to give him a blow, but that's it. And basically, it's Williams' job. I have Williams close to tier 2, tier 3. I'm a little worried about sophomore jinx, but maybe I could be wrong. But I'm just a little worried about his health and stuff. We'll see what happens. But he was healthy last year. I'm not, I'm just saying.
Well, listen, I mean, anybody, fantasy football is you can't predict it. I mean, you're gonna have some risk attached to almost all these picks. I mean,
but he's definitely a third round pick. I mean, if I can draft him in the third round, I'll do it in the second.
Third round is golden. But even in the second round, even back end of the first round, depending on what's going on. I mean, I wouldn't be happy with him there because you're not getting good value because he has risk. But I think there's a lot of good running backs out there, but then you've also got just a lot of these committee backs. I didn't hear you guys mention Aaron Jones much. I want to hear what you guys think about him.
I had him at number 8. I just didn't talk
I have him at 8 also. Ross,
I think he could flirt with 80 to 100 receptions. I mean, out of losing everybody that they lost. I mean, I feel like him and AJ Dillon. I mean, AJ Dillon's going to have his own independent like flex value in fantasy football just because I feel like Dillon's going to get a majority of the rushes. And when I say a majority, it might be like a 60-40 split on that. But when it comes to receptions, I feel like Aaron Jones, I mean, he'll probably be getting 4 receptions to every reception that Dillon gets.
And when Aaron Jones played last year and Devontae was out, his production went up 25%.
Yep.
So I think it's going to be one of Aaron Rodgers' main guys this year, and his production is going to go way up, and he'll get the handoffs, he'll get the receptions as we mentioned, and he's definitely we're running back too. I mean, he's definitely late second, early third round guy.
Agreed. All right, let's talk sleepers. Alex, who's a sleeper for you?
Well, AJ Dillon, I mean, just because I think people are sleeping on him. I mean, I don't know if he's a sleeper necessarily, but he's being drafted outside the top 25 RBs. So being drafted as like a flex RB, I feel like he's going to be probably one of the biggest head turners of the season because everyone just thinks of him as a backup, maybe with his own role, but he's still just being looked at like a backup.
I like that. Ross, how about you?
I'm digging deep. I'm digging way deep. Antonio Gibson, Mr. Fumble, he's now third on the depth chart. He's returning punts down the special teams. I like this Brian Robinson from Alabama, rookie. He's going to be the starting running back. I believe J.D. McKissick will come in, third down guy. So I like Brian Robinson is a late round guy, big chance pick, but it could pay off unbelievable for you. Unbelievable. It'd be, so I like him a lot. I like Isaiah Spiller, Texas A&M product, rookie. Plays for the LA Chargers. Eckler does not stay healthy throughout the year. I mean, he'll get hurt, and Spiller will come in and fill in for him. He'll fill in anyway. He'll come in during the game if he's healthy. So I those are the 2 rookies I like a lot. Travis Etienne. We can never say his name.
Etienne.
He looked great during the preseason. He got some handoffs. He looked unbelievable. And another guy I loved. I was watching the Bengals preseason game. Don't ask me why, but they have this guy named Chris Evans, and he's the second string running back, and he looked unbelievable. This guy was running like a maniac, and this guy's going to get the ball when Mixon needs a rest. So there's a few rookies I love. I can't wait to draft them. I've been doing it all best ball, and I'll keep doing it until people catch on. But there's some really good like risky picks, as I call them.
Here's a deep sleeper for you. I kind of like James Cook. I think the Bills' offense is just so good. Now, the problem is obviously it's a crowded backfield. We're hearing that Zach Moss is really carving out a role. It looks like he's going to get carries, but injuries happen. James Cook is going to have a role in that offense. And in that offense, I just like that as a deep sleeper. So somebody to look out for. Let's talk about busts. I have as one of my main busts, and I'm not meaning to pick on anybody because I do. Once somebody burns you badly, you sometimes are like, I'm going to stay on this. But Saquon Barkley, I have him as a bust. I mean, he's an injury risk, but even not just as an injury risk. The Giants are terrible. He's never put up the numbers. He's an amazing talent. At least that was what he was supposed to be, and he's performed decently well compared to the rest of us mortals. But he's to me somebody who I would look to be a bust. What do you guys think?
I'm not on board with that one. I think 1 year removed from the big injuries that he had. I mean, I'm just a little bit. I don't know if I'm a little bit higher on him. I have him as number 10, so I know I've seen him higher than that. I've seen him lower than that. So I guess I'm kind of right in the middle. Someone who, if I can get him at the end of the third round, I mean, I've seen him go to the beginning of the fourth. Like, if he's in the second, that's horrible value. But if I can get him later,
what's interesting is you could say that he is a value pick there and still could be a bust.
He could be, yeah.
It's funny the way that works. I don't feel like he's gonna have a big year. Ross, how about you?
Cam Akers is the first guy that comes to mind. He was never like a great running back. I mean, he never really came out and showed us like, oh my God, I got to draft this guy. I mean, he got hurt last year. He came back too early. Didn't do anything last year at all when he came back. And he's already banged up. Henderson's already banged up. So the Rams are in trouble right now with the running game, and with especially with their quarterback being banged up. So I don't think Cam Akers, he's being drafted in the 4th and 5th round right now, maybe even 3rd round. I would stay away from him as much as I can.
All right, let's talk value picks before we move on to wide receivers. I mentioned Alvin Kamara. He's somebody you can get at value, but I'm going to mention one other guy. James Conner, to me, is a great value pick. He's got a great role. He's in a great offense, and he already did it. We've seen him do it. Now, could he fall off a cliff? Yes, of course. It happens in fantasy football all the time. But I think you can get him at great value. Ross, who would you go to for value?
James Conner. I mean, Edwards isn't there anymore. He went to Miami. He's gone. So I love James Conner. Fortunately, he's been drafting in the late 3rd, 4th round. He was a touchdown machine last year. He was getting touchdowns almost every game. He was getting a touchdown.
So maybe he's not coming at as good value as I would hope.
I mean, he's not a secret anymore. He's the desert. The desert loves him. So, and Phoenix loves him, and he's a cancer survivor and everything else. So, I mean, I think James Conner is going to have a huge year. I think it's going to bounce. I think it's going to be Zeke Elliott. I think he'll have a good year this year. I know he's older. I know people all talk about Pollard and everything else, but I think Zeke Elliott, people don't remember, he can catch the ball too. He's a receiver. I think Zeke's going to prove that he's back. And I think Dallas could win that division, I think, unless the Eagles do. But I love Elliott this year. I've been drafting him in the 4th round, and I think that's a great value pick right now is Zeke Elliott.
All right, Alex, value pick before we move on.
Josh Jacobs. Everyone is really thinking that he's going to lose the job, that because they didn't pick up his 5th-year extension, that I don't know, that he's just going to suck this year. I see it as a team is going to probably run him into the ground and then let him go next year. So
Yeah,
for redraft, I love that kind of stuff. And who ran the ball more in the red zone than the Patriots last year? And that's the exact kind of scheme that they're going to be running. So Josh Jacobs, I'll take him. He's gone like what, RB 26 or something crazy like that. I'll take him.
it's a great point that when a team doesn't pick up a running back's contract, that doesn't mean he's not going to have a role. It could be the opposite. It could be, okay, well, we're not invested in him. So, it's kind of sad, actually, what happens to these guys. They just throw them to the wolves. But for fantasy sports, you've got to take your advantages where you can. All right, let's move to wide receiver. This is a really interesting discussion, I think. Who is the wide receiver one? Because I bet, my guess is we could easily have 3 different answers. There's some great picks. Alex, I'll let you go first.
Do the top tier, Alex.
If it's I got 3 guys in the top tier. I mean, everyone should have those 3 in the top tier. If Stafford is not healthy, I got to change this answer, but it's Cooper Kupp as of right now. The closer that we get to the season, it may change to Justin Jefferson. That's like 1A, 1B for me. And then Jamar Chase is just slightly behind those guys because he's not going to get as much volume, even though he's probably going to have more big plays and more big games than both of them. Cooper Kupp. I mean, the way that they use him and the Sean McVay offense and everything's running through him. And Ross, you already brought up the run game, how it's messed up. So what do? They're going to get it to the king of yak. That's Cooper Kupp.
Well, I certainly have the same top 3. I have a slightly different order, but we'll talk about it. And Ross, how about you?
Top tier, you guys nailed it. I mean, you can't go wrong with any 3 of those guys. You could put them in a bag and just pick them and you'll be fine. Those guys are the top 3 guys. And then, I love Devontae Adams in Vegas. I think he's going to have a big splash there. He's paired up with his old quarterback from college, Carr. I think those ties together will score a lot of touchdowns. Deebo Samuel just signed a big deal. He's going to get the ball as a running back also. So he's a double threat. He'll get a lot of fantasy points like he did last year. He had some huge games. I was looking at his stats last year, guys.
They're massive.
And Deebo had some unbelievable, huge games. I mean,
what kind of wide receivers are running the ball at the level he did? He had 8 touchdowns on the ground.
Deebo's Deebo you got to consider, especially with Trey Lance now. You got to worry about him running, with that offense. So Deebo, to me, is somebody I like. And I think a guy I've been kind of stacking up on all these best ball drafts is CD Lamb. I know the Hustler doesn't like him. I know he's not a Dallas Cowboy, but I love CD Lamb this year. I think it's going to be his breakout year. And, in fantasy football, I say this all the time. You got to go against the grain sometimes to win your league. You can't look at the newspaper or the magazines and do what they say. Sometimes you just got to stand up for yourself and do what you think is right. And I think CD Lamb is going to be an all-pro receiver and have he's going to be a top 5 fantasy stat wise receiver also. So, those guys are good start. And another guy I like is Diggs for Buffalo. I mean, he's a monster in fantasy, and he's going to have another huge year. I mean, Gabriel, and he has Gabriel now too as this number 2 running receiver who I love too, but Diggs is going to have a huge year. So there's a lot of value out there with receivers. I'm more excited to talk about value picks when it comes to wide receivers.
Well, I love what you said, though, Ross, about sometimes you got to go against the grain. I have certain players ranked in my top 10, and I'm looking at 2 of them, which I'll get to when we get there, that I bet you a lot of people don't even have them in their top 10, but I think they're going to have big years for various reasons.
I bet me and the Hustler probably have them in the top 2. I want to hear who they are.
You want me to jump straight to that? Fine, I'll do it.
Go ahead.
So I think Mike Evans is going to have.
Mike Evans is 1,000 yards every season. He's a great receiver.
But he's going to have the most massive year he's ever had.
Insane.
He's going to have the most massive year. I love when I run.
Me and the Hustler are all over Evans. I mean, you got crazy.
Well, where do you have him ranked?
So that's one guy that
where do you have him ranked? Where do you have him ranked?
Top 8, 6 or 7 Hustler.
I'm not
All
7.
right. Okay. So maybe, listen, I guess I'm not going against the grain. Of course, Mike Evans is good.
If you look at Evans' stats, every season he played football over 1,000 yards.
I'm just saying, I think Mike Evans has very easy possibility to get to 3rd or 4th best receiver. That's a lot.
Okay, that's not a crazy prediction. Okay, what's your next one?
The next one, and this, listen, I didn't say it was crazy. I said it was against the grain.
It's not again. Okay, keep going. What's your next against the grain prediction?
I think Mike Williams is going to have a massive year. I think so. I have him in my top 10. Do you guys have him there?
I don't have him top 10, but I do like Mike Williams. I think he was going to have a big year this year for the Chargers. I'm not a big Keenan Allen guy, as the Hustler knows. I
think Keenan Allen is starting to fade. It's one of the reasons I think Mike Williams is going to be so good, and he's attached to Justin Herbert, so that's a pretty good.
So you have Mike Williams in your top 10.
I do. Well, I have him number 9. This, I don't know if this is going against the grain, but I have Tyreek Hill ranked 8th, and I'm not even that comfortable with it, honestly. He's in a new scheme. I know he's running his mouth right now, and I understand why based on the skill set that he's had, but he's been playing with Patrick Mahomes. I know you're saying, well, Tua could put up big numbers with those guys, and he could, but Tyreek Hill's not going to be the same guy in Miami. I would be shocked.
He's the fastest guy he's one of the fastest guys in the league. The Hustler can throw touchdowns to Tyreek Hill. That's how good Tyreek Hill is.
That's how good the Hustler
is. The Hustler is unbelievable. But Tyreek Hill is an elite receiver. He's skill set. He's one of the best in the league. He's up there with Devontae Adams. Devontae's the best pass runner with patterns. He's the best. Tyreek Hill is the guy that's the big play guy. He'll burn you. If you don't play the right defense, he'll burn you.
I just worry
about number 8 as well.
That's good to hear. I just worry about the Dolphins' schemes and them not being able to put him in the positions that the Chiefs often did. But Tyreek Hill could rise above that easily. And number 8's not shabby anyway.
They got the coach from the 49ers who's the offensive genius, they call him. He's very smart. I mean, he looks like Poindexter.
That's a good
looks like
what did he do? He went to Harvard, and just been around the NFL since he was like 14 or 15 when he was like the ball boy and a whole bunch of stuff. Then that was for the Mike Shanahan team and stuff like that. So it was he was around for some big time teams.
It's hard though not to put Cooper Kupp number 1. I'm so worried about Matthew Stafford, but he's just, he's a juggernaut. So I do have him at number 1, but I was so tempted to put Jamar Chase there. He puts up such huge numbers. Justin Jefferson also is fantastic. All right, let's move to sleepers, guys. Alex, we'll start with you. Who's one of your sleepers?
So just someone I have to mention. I don't know if we're going to consider him a sleeper, but Cortland Sutton. Everyone's on the Jerry Jeudy train. Everyone thinks it's going to be Jerry Jeudy no matter what. But the system that's going to get ran, Cortland Sutton is the guy who's going to get more of it. And I've been saying this for a while. If Jerry Judy's going to get drafted than Cortland Sutton, I'd rather get the value guy of the two anyways.
I totally agree. And from what I'm hearing, he's got more of the rapport with Russell Wilson anyway. So it's not far, and Jerry Jeudy hasn't really proved it anyway. Ross, how about you?
This guy's not a sleeper, but he's dropped. For some reason, he's not being drafted as a wide receiver 1. Sometimes not even wide receiver 2 is A.J. Brown of the Eagles. A.J. Brown's a receiver that's going to get the ball in the middle of the field. Hurts is going to love this guy. Supposedly, it's Hurts' favorite target right now. And A.J. Brown's going to have a huge year. Smith-Schuster of Kansas City. I love him. I think he'll be Patrick Mahomes' favorite target, especially with Hardman going down today. I think he went down and they carried him off in a stretcher. That's not a good sign, Hustler. Not at all.
No, he walked to the cart. Okay, he did walk to the cart, but he's not going to walk all the way back to the locker room. That's what the cart's for.
All I read is that they had a cart that take him away.
Well, the cart in practice is different than the cart in the game, because you get carted off in a game, that means you're screwed. You get carted off in a practice because it's practice and you have no reason to save face. You're not in front. You're not in front of the TV. You're not in front of tens of thousands of people. Nothing like that.
It's something that impressed me. I watched the Steeler game. Is George Pickens, the rookie receiver from Georgia, I believe. He looked really good in practice. I guess all the players love him.
I hope you're right, because I have him in Dynasty. I got him at the back end of the first round, and I was very happy. No, I got him actually at 2-1. It was pretty great.
Yeah.
For Dynasty, I love him. Redraft, not so much. Just
I agree.
These Steeler rookies, like they don't
I'm
really
saying value
maybe
picks.
have darlings.
But people aren't taking that high.
Some people play keeper leagues also, not just Dynasty. I think he's a great pick in a keeper league because I think next year is the year that he could be really great. Okay, this is a big sleeper of mine. You can tell I'm very high on the Bills, but Gabriel Davis, I think, is going to have a big year. I mean, he's set for a really nice role. Interestingly, I mean, they have a third receiver who I also have in Dynasty, Shakur. He's looking good as well, and I could see him being a back end guy, but probably not in a redraft league. I wouldn't invest in him. Gabriel Davis, I definitely would anywhere you can. Definitely. Let's move to busts. Who do you think is going to be a bust this year, Alex? I'll start with you.
Ooh, dang it.
Is that a dang it? There's a lot to choose from.
Oh yeah, and I just wasn't.
You weren't.
I was thinking about who's another guy who I was gonna like to say another guy who was going late. So I was just on.
Listen, you can do that.
All right, and then we'll come to me for the bust.
Yeah, there's no rules here. Go ahead.
I can help with the bust if you need help.
Alan Lazard, that's someone that I just want to throw out there because he's getting drafted super late. If he ends up being the number one target, which I mean, I feel like he leads the team in receptions, I mean, so that will be the number one on the Packers.
And he's played well when he's played. So I think it's a great pick. All right, Ross, start us off on busts. We'll give Alex some time.
I want to say somebody that you're going to get mad about. I'm going to do it anyway. Is Amari Cooper of the Cleveland Browns.
Listen,
Cleveland hasn't had a 900-yard receiver in years. I mean, no one's broken 900 yards for years. It's been a long time. Amari Cooper, unfortunately, he's not going to have a big year. He'll probably average like 50, 60 yards a game, maybe a touchdown here or there, maybe. I mean, but it's a shame because Cooper was always a top tier guy or close to it. No, he's tier 2. This year he's tier 3, tier 4. I don't see him having an unbelievable year at all.
Well, I totally agree. And also Deshaun Watson, he could be out for the entire year. Or at least a huge chunk of it. And that downgrades Amari Cooper even more. Listen, I'm not mad at you for saying it. I'm mad that I'm a Browns fan. That's what I'm mad about.
And also a guy that, guys, last year he was like drafted in the first couple rounds. DK Metcalf has dropped off.
Was my bust. That was my bust.
DK, I don't know about a bust, but it's just like he just dropped off the fantasy earth.
Well,
what happened?
What happened is Russell Wilson got dealt to the Broncos. I mean, if Russell Wilson was still in Seattle, we'd be talking about DK Metcalf in the top 10 easily.
For sure.
So, I mean, he's still an amazing physical specimen. I think he's a great wide receiver. I don't think, he could move somewhere else later in his career and come back to be a real value. But without Russell Wilson, if you've got Drew Lock throwing to you, you're in trouble. It's just not
But again, if I'm Drew Lock and DK says, "Hey, I want the ball," and I would say, "Yes, sir, whatever you want, I'll throw you the ball," because he's pretty intimidating. DK Metcalf, he's built. This guy's like an Adonis.
They're going to throw his way. Is it going to end up in his arms though?
Jerry Jeudy, as a rookie, had like the most uncatchable deep balls like in the league because Drew Lock was thrown to him.
Drew Lock. Well, is Drew Lock going to be the quarterback or Geno Smith in Seattle? Who's it going to be?
I think it's going to start off as Geno Smith, honestly.
So Lock got COVID, and Geno's supposed to start this week.
Right. This was the game where Lock was supposed to maybe gain some ground, but I don't see it happening. Geno Smith he's certainly not a great quarterback. I wouldn't be happy with that either. That downgrades DK Metcalf and Lockett for that matter. I mean, both of those guys are way down for me. In terms of value picks, you mentioned AJ Brown. I see him as a huge value because he has the upside of these top guys, and he's playing with Jalen Hurts. There's no reason that he can't be huge. Another value pick for me is T. Higgins. Just because he's the second guy on the team, a lot of people are like, look, everybody knows T. Higgins is good, but he could be a very, very big value pick. Alex, you can weigh in on bust value picks. You could just decline altogether. There are no.
Here goes my bust pick.
Let's hear it.
Second, it's going to be CeeDee Lamb, and this is why.
Don't say that.
It's not because he's not going to do good. He's going to go over 1,000. Is he going to get 1,000 receptions? 1,000 receptions. He's going to get 100.
No, that would be incredible.
I don't think so. I don't know if he's going to get 100 receptions. I think I'm going to take the under on that. He's being drafted as like a lot of times in the top 10. I mean, I've seen him get drafted as high as and top 10 wide receiver. That's what I mean. Not overall. I don't think he's going to finish inside the top 10 at the wide receiver. So that's why I think he's going to be a bust, because he's going to be drafted as a top 10 wide receiver, but I don't think he finishes there. I think he's going to be like where he was last year, 13, 14, something like that. So he'll get close to paying it off, but I'm going to say being drafted as high as he does, and he's going to fall short of exceeding everyone's expectations.
All right, now we're going to move to tight end. And Alex, I just need to let you know about a little bit of a controversy in the MFSN league. Ross made it so that tight ends are just all lumped into the flex position. So there is no actual tight end position.
Yes.
Now, Alex is for this. So let's talk about that. Alex, why are you for that?
Well, I'm the one who probably pushed him into doing it because I brought this up. Tight ends to me are kind of like kickers, where, I mean, people have, like, we hate kickers so much because there's only a couple of them. We literally got rid of them. But tight ends, we can't really do that. But
outside of this way.
Well, I mean, yeah, I like it this way. I like making it a tight end premium to where, like, the top tight ends, they're still a little bit extra valuable, even with the flex spot, but it also makes those bottom tier crap guys just a little bit more, valuable, to where they're kind of comparable for a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. And if you don't want to have a tight end because you don't want to deal with the crap one and you don't want to stream all year, you don't have to.
Yeah, you're free to do that. I love that. All right. Well, I'm coming around to it. I like it. Now, when it comes to the rankings, though, obviously there's this massive top tier that's way over everybody else, and then there's huge drop-offs everywhere. Ross, what are your tiers? Give me your first two tiers.
Travis Kelce, guys, we all know he's the top tier guy. Just as I want to say Mark Andrews or Kyle Pitts, they're tier 2. Kelsey's by himself. I can't put anybody else up there. I think Kyle Pitts is going to have a great year. I think in Atlanta, with their offense, I think he'll be a key receiver there. I think he'll have a lot better year than he had last year. And I think Mark Andrews will have a good year too with Baltimore and Lamar Jackson. But Kelsey's the diamond up for the tight end position. He's going to have a great year like he always does. He'll get the ball 25-30% of the time when he's throwing. It should be a great season for him. So, but the thing about Kelce is you got to draft him at least in the second round, or you're not going to get him.
Well, especially in a league that actually just has a tight end slot. I mean that.
Yeah,
and then he's valued totally different.
You got George Kittle. We all love him. He gets hurt a lot. He has games where he's invisible, but he has games when he's huge. You got Waller, who's a 1,000-yard catcher who catches, but he's with Adams now, and Hunter Renfrow we didn't talk about, but he's another great value pick, another guy that gets 1,000 yards. And then we got Schultz and Dallas and Goddard and Knox. I mean, there's the tight ends get kind of bad after the 8th or 9th spot, and that's the reason I changed it in the league, because that way we don't have to pick up those horrible tight ends.
I love being free
this season.
I love being free. I mean, even in this show, we used to actually go ahead and rank defenses and rank kickers, and I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I refuse. Absolutely not. I'm not wasting my time with that crap anymore. So
exactly,
it's a total crapshoot, and I like what you're saying about it, Alex. That this is a way to take away that tight end problem. I mean, I think it gets really quite bad after 5. There's a huge drop off, and I think the drop off after Kelsey is pretty big. Kittle to me is the only one who could possibly get into that realm, but first of all, he's an injury risk, and he's also playing with a new quarterback. I don't know how that's going to look. I really don't. Trey Lance, I just don't know how he's going to perform. He could be great, but maybe not. There's a big drop off. So, and then you get into guys where it just ends up being like pick somebody out of a hat at some point. I mean, it truly is like kickers, but not quite as bad as the kicker thing. I mean,
I could guarantee no one has the same top 7 as me. It's because I get real dicey, but I get real realistic when it comes to the tight ends, because everyone has the same top 5. And I've got Kelce and Mark Andrews there at the top 2. They're in the top tier to me. Really the guys who, if you're going to pay up, those are the guys. Everyone else, I get a little bit skeptical depending on how high. But then I got Pitts at number 3. Then I got Schultz at number 4, Goddard at number 5, and then I got Kittle and Waller at 6 and 7.
Nice. I love that shakeup. I probably have a more traditional setup. I have Kelsey, then I have Mark Andrews, then I have Kittle, then I have Darren Waller, then I have Kyle Pitts. Then after that, it's Dalton Schultz. And listen, this is actually, I almost want to change it right now because this is my bust pick. I have my bust pick at number 7. I shouldn't do that. I should have the courage of my convictions and say that I think TJ Hawkinson is going to suck.
I'm with you on that.
Okay. I think, he's so overrated for where he's drafted because he's really, is there any difference between him and Dawson Knox? I think Dawson Knox is going to get better than TJ Hawkinson.
OJ Howard now is in Buffalo. And also my favorite name of any football player, especially when you say it, Dan, is Mo Alley Cox. What's your opinion about Mo Alley Cox this year?
Is he Mo Alley Big Cox or Mo Alley Small Cox?
Yeah. Listen, I mean, there's so many puns to be had there. It gets larger and larger when we get excited. Now, listen, I think that he's not somebody I'm going to own on any team. I mean, he's just no way. But I'll tell you a guy that I do have as a sleeper, especially in leagues that actually do have the tight end slot, and you need to find somebody good. Because I'd rather wait on value than pay up for somebody like TJ Hawkinson. I'd rather have Pat Freiermuth. He's the chance of him outperforming Hawkinson, it's at least a coin flip. And he's got a lot of talent. I also really believe in Pickett. I think Pickett's going to come in and do really well. The Steelers always know what they're doing with those quarterbacks. They get them late. I remember when Ben Roethlisberger was drafted when the Browns could have had him. And I was like, it was such a classic Browns move. But Pat Freiermuth, I think, is going to have a big year. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I like Freiermuth. I mean, I get a little bit nervous about Mitch Trubisky just because he's never really been a guy to like hyper target.
Oh, don't worry. He'll be out of there by the 4th game.
Yeah. 2 guys that I have, I put them inside my top 10, but they're definitely not being drafted inside the top 10. Zach Ertz and Mike Gesicki.
Oh, yeah. I have Zach Ertz as my value pick. A huge value. I mean, every bit as good as these guys in a great offense. Got Kyler Murray throwing to him, and he performed that way last year. He just needed to get out of Philly where Dallas Goedert was crowding his space, and there wasn't a system set up for him. Ross, anybody to add?
I love Hunter Henry. Belichick loves throwing the tight end once in a while.
Oh, I don't want anything to do with the Patriots offense.
Especially in the red zone, he loves trying to hit the tight end. And Robert Tanya, I mean, plays for Green Bay.
Tanyan.
And Rodgers loves this guy. I mean, Rodgers like hangs out with them. They go to dinner together. They're good friends. And he just got off the PUP list. He's practicing again. They'll probably play the next preseason game. He's healthy. So is Christian Watson, also the receiver for Green Bay. He's healthy too. So Green Bay's getting healthier. And I think for me, he's the top 10 tight end. I don't know why people aren't taking him. I think because the whole injury thing kind of took people for a loop. But Tanya, to me, if you can get him late in the draft, it's a great pick.
I think those are the kind of guys to go for. I'm not high on Hunter Henry because the Patriots have a defensive coordinator as their offensive coordinator. Now, I know people think Belichick can work his magic, and a lot of times he does. But I've heard some bad things out of that camp about how he's looking. And now,
did he hire coordinators yet? Did he hire anybody to take those positions?
Alex, what do you know about it?
So I forget who they said. I forget the name of the person off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure it was someone in-house. And a lot of it is just going to be the schemes that they've been running, previously, their Patriots offensive scheme, which usually leaves us all kind of clueless on who the guy's going to be.
Yeah, and it can be very effective, but the way it's looking right now, I would rather lean.
I never heard of a team not having an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator during like preseason. I mean,
or having a defensive
spring
coordinator as the offensive coordinator. Now that's really weird.
I mean,
yeah. So there's
I never heard of any of this in my life. I don't understand what Belichick's doing. I don't know if his ego's stepping in or he just doesn't want to promote people. I don't know I have no idea what's going on in
Alex, what were you going to say? We'll finish up on this.
I was going to say there's no official offensive coordinator, but Matt Patricia is the one calling the plays right now.
Right. Former head coach of the Detroit Lions.
And failed miserably. Failed horribly.
Yeah. He if it weren't for Matt Millen, he would be vilified as one of the all-time greats of the Detroit Lions failures. But guys, it's been a pleasure talking to you about this. I hope that we provided some great information for your drafts. We're all excited about it. I love that it's here. We're not far away, guys. Keep looking at those ADPs and seeing where the values are. You got to listen to win the draft. I think just avoid the busts in the early rounds, find the values in the late rounds. Guys, thanks so much. Alex, thank you for joining us here. Ross, it's been great being with you, and we will see you all soon.